How to think like Vito Corleone from The Godfather. Now, after last week's video on Vito Corleone regarding making an offer they can't refuse, I've literally been bombarded with requests to break him down even further, particularly with the way he deals with the heads of the 5 families. I mean, I guess Vito really is a character that we all know well and love.
How do things ever get so far?
Now, Vito truly is one of the kings when it comes to the game of power. And one of the first key principles that Vito used in order to stay ahead of his enemies was the 38th law of power. Think as you like, but behave like others. If you make a show of going against the times, flaunting your unconventional ideas and unorthodox ways, people will think that you only want attention and that you look down upon them. They will find a way to punish you for making them feel inferior. It is far safer to blend in and nurture the common touch. Share your originality only with tolerant friends and those who are sure to appreciate your uniqueness. The thing that Vito understood about the game of power was that everyone within the game was always looking at you for signs of weakness. The people at the top typically keep an eye out on the ones that go against what they want or say, and to vocalize or behave in ways that go against the conventional norm would put you under a deeper level of scrutiny. We first see this when Vito crosses paths with Don Fanucci, to where he can't wrap his head around as to why Fanucci bullies his own people for money.
Vito, come here. Come on.
Vito despised the whole idea of who Don Fanucci was, but he didn't try to be the superhero straight away. When the Don bullied him out of his job and forced Vito to pay him protection money, he behaved exactly like everyone else in the area did, by taking it on the chin and moving on. As if he did refuse, he and his family would have met a pretty nasty demise. But just because he behaved in a conventional way, it didn't mean that he didn't want things to be different.
E per chi la mo pagare?
Vito, ci pensiamo neanche.
Ah sì, ma io è solo, noi ci siamo 3. E io è armato e noi ci siamo armati. Perciò per chi c'è la medaglia a io non ci sarà moneta.
Tu non capisci. Chi sono il suo quartiere?
After vocalizing his thoughts and ideas to his closest of friends, he then devises a scheme to get rid of Don Fanucci. But the reason as to why the assassination was so successful was because the Don had absolutely no suspicion of Vito whatsoever. Because Vito behaved and acted in a way that portrayed himself as just being a normal citizen, showcasing the true art of deception. Now, I know the initial interpretation of this can seem a bit shady. I mean, it's easy to think that I'm saying to not stand up for what's wrong or to not fight injustice. But in reality, it's actually quite the opposite. Fighting against injustice and things that you believe to be wrong is great. But just like Vito understood, there is no point fighting against it in an irrational, unstrategic way. If Vito stood up to the Don in this situation, granted, he may have got a few brownie points with a few people, but he most likely would have just got straight up killed, and things would have most likely just continued exactly as they were. But by getting rid of the Don in the way that he did, he brought about true change to his neighbourhood by helping the people around him and elevating himself into a much stronger position of power.
We gotta make a big message.
The point is, in order to bring about true change in any situation, standing out and screaming it from the rooftops, especially if it goes against the ways of thinking of everyone around you, isn't the most strategic thing to do, as you most likely will get instantly crushed by the ones above you. Think as you like, by all means, have your own goals and intentions, but be very careful as to who you voice your ideas to, as this person can easily snake you out to the higher ups. But by putting on a mask that is most appropriate for the group or people you're facing off with is how you can go about dropping their guard and putting them into a position of weakness, allowing you to take out your enemy much more strategically and bring about change in a much more powerful way. Which is what links nicely to last week's point about making an offer they can't refuse.
They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Now I know you may be thinking, but Aaron, as Vito grew older, he kind of went more against this law, and you'd be right to think so. During the scene where Vito and Sollozzo have a meeting about going into the drug business, Vito declines Sollozzo's offer, going against what everyone else wants to do. The reason why he was able to do that, however, was because he was now in a much more stronger position of power, which is what granted him the ability to go against the offer without having to fear any repercussions, which he most likely wouldn't have. It was only until Sonny interjected and revealed his true intentions, which is what put Vito and the family in a much weaker position.
Oh, are you telling me that the Italians guarantee our
Wait a
investment?
minute. I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I spoil them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen.
Giving Sollozzo and the families the idea to take Vito out, to which Vito scolds Sonny for doing so.
What's the matter with you? I think your brain is going soft from all that comedy you're playing with that young girl. Never tell anybody outside the family what you're thinking again. Go on.
After the whole ordeal of the war between the families and Vito's recovery, we see Don Corleone sit down with the heads of the 5 families, and he tries to deduce who the true puppet master was behind the war.
How did things ever get so far? I don't know.
And the way he did this and make it work out in his favour was by using the 21st law of power. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. No one likes feeling stupider than the next person. The trick then is to make your victims seem smart. And not just smart, but smarter than you are. Once convinced of this, they will never suspect that you may have ulterior motives. And this simple principle, combined with the first point that I made, is what allowed Vito to deduce who the true enemy of the family was. During the meeting of the heads of the families, Vito tries to orchestrate peace.
Natalia lost a son. I lost a son. We're quits. And if Natalia agrees, then I'm willing to let things go on the way they were before.
On the surface, it seems that Vito is too tired to continue the war, and is willing to forgive everyone and go back to how things were. But in actual fact, Vito's true intention was to use the meeting as a smokescreen in order to gather intelligence on everyone and scope out who wants what. As the meeting continues, Vito comes to realise that Tattaglia is nothing more than a frontman, with him constantly glaring for approval from Barzini, and Barzini insisting more on getting into the drug business and the sharing of Vito's political power more than Tattaglia. Vito comes to realise that Barzini is the mastermind.
Then we are agreed. The traffic in drugs will be permitted but controlled, and Don Corleone will give her protection in the east, and there will be the peace.
But again, Vito keeps quiet. He gives off the impression that he isn't aware of this, and lets Barzini think that his plan succeeded. This is why Vito is such a perfect representation of what it takes to succeed at the game of power. I mean, an irrational man would have gotten up right then and there and start to get emotional, whereas Vito stayed quiet and observed, which is what really showcases his cold, calculated cunning. By letting Barzini think he outmaneuvered him, this is what put Vito and the Corleone family 3 steps ahead of Barzini's, and created time and space for Vito and Michael to devise and set up the plan of the killings of the 5 families. Vito actually leaves everyone with quite a chilling quote that only after rewatching the film you understand what he actually means.
Let me say that I swear on the souls of my grandchildren that I will not be the one to break the peace we've made here today.
The way Vito worded this was very clever. Vito himself never promised that there wouldn't be peace. All he promised was that he wouldn't be the one to break it. And as we all know, it was Michael, after Vito's death, that was the one that officially ordered the killings of the 5 families. But even after staying true to his word and taking his promise to the grave, Vito was still a massive player in the assassination of the 5 families. And like I said last week, even in death, Vito still played a massive part in his enemy's demise, showcasing the fact of who was really in control all along. By Vito using the strategy of seeming dumber than his mark, he created time and space for him to sit back and strategize even more, to where he and the Corleone family came out on top at the end. Now, even though I've used this principle in the context of The Godfather, which involves murders and killings, it doesn't mean that you can't use these principles in your day-to-day life. Nobody likes to feel inferior to anyone else, and it is a general rule of thumb to not insult someone's brain power. But if you can make this principle work for you, then this opens the door to all sorts of avenues of deception. If you know that they don't know what you know, then this is what will put you 2 steps ahead. And the more easier your opponent thinks it is to prey on you, the more easily you can turn the tables, making them completely unprepared for when you make a move against them. And this is what links back to the first principle, about thinking as you like but behaving like others. By publicly demonstrating and revealing the true nature of your intelligence rarely pays, but by using these tactics that I've provided here today is what is going to allow you to maneuver your enemy into a position of weakness and put yourself in a much stronger position of strength. And that's how to think like Vito Corleone from The Godfather. By thinking as you like but behaving like others, and using the art of seeming dumber than your mark in order to create you time and space, putting you in a position of strength and your opponents into positions of weakness. And that is what is going to allow you to grant you more power in your life and in the world of business. So if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button and leave a comment below on what your thoughts and feelings are about Vito. Comment some of your favourite lessons and quotes for him, and let me know what movie or TV show character breakdown would you like to see next. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel, and to all our loyal subscribers, we are glad you are here. We do some of the best character breakdowns on the whole of YouTube, and we aim to produce at least one high quality animated video per week. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.